Welcome back to the final score. Nick Walters joins us now. Nick was down on the field, so he had a different perspective than I did up in the press box. I want to start with some of the questionable calls from Coach Briles, the offensive coordinators. Kendall Briles was taking a lot of criticism on social media. And look, I was upset with some of the play calls too. It seemed like Arkansas was rolling 14-0. They're running the ball. They're having success running the ball. And then he brings in Malik Hornsby, and they try 3 gadget plays. Arkansas has to punt. A&M gets the ball, drives down, scores 14-7. It was just a different ball game, and you just got to wonder, why try something different? It's working by running the football.
Yeah, the rest of the game was history after those debatable calls. And when you look back at the first quarter, Arkansas's offense was in such a rhythm, blanking the Aggies 14-0. The defense was rolling, offense was rolling. It all seemed like Arkansas, everything was clicking on all cylinders for the team. But once you had that 3 and out, the questionable calls started coming in from Briles. That's when things started going downhill. And next thing you know, the Aggies offense, they start get rolling, and by halftime, it's a 1-point game. And in the third quarter, Arkansas's offense, they still could not get back on track. And we didn't really see their offense get clicking again until the fourth quarter.
You know, this game's a game of momentum, and Arkansas had the momentum, and they were doing it by running the ball. And I know Coach Pittman in the press conference, he took up for Briles, said he was a dang good offensive coordinator. And he said what he's supposed to do, but I just got to wonder, at some point, you're just like, quit it. Just run the ball. This is working. Why change what's working?
Sure. Well, let's look back at that KJ Jefferson fumble, because that was the biggest game-changing play of the season so far. And when you even look back to last year or even years prior, I can't personally remember one play changing the course of an entire game like that. KJ Jefferson at the 3-yard line goes aerial. The ball comes out, ricochets into an Aggie's arms. Then the Aggies have an exchange of some sorts. A lot of Hog fans thought that maybe the progression had stopped and they were angry about that. But that one play that was taken 97 yards back to the house for the Aggies, that changed the entire element of this game. And you saw that Arkansas really could not rebound from that mistake that was so disastrous there in the second quarter.
You know, that's why I was talking about a game of momentum. It's 14-7, even after the questionable calls from Briles. Arkansas gets the ball back. They drive down. They're about to make it 21-7, and one poor decision from KJ to try to jump from about the 4-yard line and stick the ball out causes the fumble. Like you said, they take it back, and all of a sudden, instead of 21-7, it's 14-13, and this place was going crazy. I mean, all the Arkansas fans on that side were going nuts, and then like that, it shifts, and this side, A&M fans are going crazy, and it's a 1-point game going into halftime. And I remember sitting there at half going, how is this possible? How is this a 1-point game when Arkansas dominated the first half at 14-13? What was it like down on the field? Could you tell how loud it was getting?
Well, you mentioned the fact that these sides of the stadium, they were split even, and through the game, it seemed like first quarter, Arkansas fans went crazy. You couldn't hear a pin drop there on that side of the stadium. But once that second quarter happened, you had the Aggies scoring. Arkansas got momentum back for a little bit in that drive all the way down to the red zone. But once that costly mistake happened with KJ's fumble and the scoop and score by the Aggies, man, on the field, you can just feel the momentum completely shift to A&M side.
You know, and here's the concerning thing for me. This is the second straight week Arkansas has fumbled the ball inside the 5-yard line. And that's such a huge change, because instead of you scoring, they're scoring. And in this play, it was all in one play. And they took it down the sideline and scored. But that's something that can't happen. You've got to protect the ball more than ever when you get inside the red zone, and especially inside the 5-yard line. That is like taking 7 points off the board.
Yeah, but of course, every team is going to have their hiccups during the course of a game, especially during a ranked game, number 10 versus number 23. Mistakes will happen, but you saw in the final drive of that first half, Arkansas's defense got a stop, and the Aggies could not convert. In that halftime locker room, you could have made adjustments, but in the third quarter, Arkansas still fell flat, and they still rode on that momentum on the downswing that they were in the second quarter.
Well, we'll talk more about the second half when we come back. There's a lot to break down. The third quarter was just a disaster for Arkansas. The Aggies controlled the entire quarter, and then the fourth quarter, the comeback began. So we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll discuss the second half. You are watching The Final Score. All right, welcome back to The Final Score. We talked about the first half. Now let's talk about the second half. If Arkansas owned the first half with yards, time of possession, it was all Aggies in the third quarter. They had 2 just lengthy drives, 10 points, and Arkansas just didn't do much in that third quarter. I was thinking maybe halftime adjustments, Arkansas comes out, and we're going to see them retake the momentum, but it was stunning to me how it was all Aggies in that third quarter.
Yeah, we saw Arkansas end the second quarter on that sharp downturn with the scoop and score after KJ's fumble at the goal line. As Hog fans, you would have hoped that they would have regrouped in the locker rooms, but that was not the case. As we saw, they still had the same exact issues from the end of the second quarter. In that final offensive drive we had from Arkansas before halftime, it was tough. I mean, KJ got sacked, and ultimately they went into half without any kind of momentum, and they could not regain that until the fourth.
No, and the defense couldn't get off the field. There were numerous third down opportunities, and A&M converted all the third down opportunities. They were not doing that in the first half. Arkansas did a good job of getting off the field. In fact, there was a 2nd and 30, and I tweeted this out. Arkansas has to get off the field here. Very next play, A&M gets 32 yards. It was just a little pass in the middle, and nobody was there. And A&M's little running back just took it 32 yards for the first down. And I was just like, this isn't looking good right now. When you can't stop a team on 2nd and 30, you're in trouble. And they were in trouble, had all the momentum going into the fourth quarter. And then I remember saying this too. I picked Arkansas to win this game because KJ Jefferson, he's your quarterback. You've got the better quarterback. But through 3 quarters of football, Max Johnson outplayed KJ Jefferson. Max Johnson did all the things it took. He had a touchdown pass. He converted some plays. He was running around using his feet. KJ had the costly fumble. He had a couple of bad passes. There was a time on third down he missed a wide-open receiver, overthrew him by a couple of yards. KJ didn't look like KJ until the fourth quarter, and he took over. Big drive for Arkansas in the fourth quarter to get back into the game.
And by the way, defensively speaking, I mean, that's the identity of Sam Pittman's Hogs. And going into tonight, all of the wins for the Razorbacks under Sam Pittman, the defense had not let up over 21 points. And anytime they had lost, they had let up over 21 points. And the Aggies just met that threshold tonight, getting 23 points on the board for the Hogs to come back from that 9-point deficit to start the fourth quarter. But KJ did get going in that fourth quarter. The entire offense did. I believe with 9.5 minutes left, that's when things started clicking again. They marched down the field. KJ Jefferson had that quarterback option to go into the end zone, get them on the board for the first time since the first quarter. But I'll tell you what's not a winning recipe, not scoring a single point from the first quarter all the way until the beginning of the fourth.
They scored 14 points in the first quarter, and they unfortunately didn't get enough in that fourth quarter. Got the big touchdown from KJ Jefferson to get 21 points. They needed a couple more. Let's talk about that because Cam Little, some people are beating him up on social media. Others are taking up for Cam Little. It was a 41-yard field goal attempt. It's tough, you know, and Coach Pittman said after the game, Cam Little's taking it harder than anybody, but he told Cam, look, you're going to win a lot of games for us when it's all said and done. I'm sticking with you. You were my guy.
Yeah, but after all the adversity the Hogs had faced from the second quarter onto the third quarter, I think a bright spot you can take away from the game is that the Hogs did get in the position where it was on Cam Little's shoulders to win the game, because with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, it didn't look like Arkansas was going to get anything going, and eventually the Aggies would end up winning by double digits. But instead, the defense started being stout. The Aggies did drive down the field, but Eric Gregory came away with a big sack to force a fourth down. Then the Aggies missed a field goal that allowed for the Hogs to drive down the field. So obviously Cam Little, you would prefer not for him to miss a kick from 42 yards out, but that's no gimme in college football. But it is at least a good sign for the Hogs that they were able to rebound eventually.
I've never seen a kick hit off the top of the upright. I've been watching football for a long time. I've never seen that. Of course, we've seen it bonk off the side, but to have it hit off the top, it shows you how close he was to making that. And I want to go back to a play that's got to be discussed, a bad snap. A crucial bad snap. It's 2nd and 5. Arkansas's driving. And at that point, I'm thinking Arkansas is going to score a touchdown because they're running the ball again. A&M can't stop them. 2nd and 5, bad snap. Thankfully, Rocket recovers that snap, or it could have been a disaster. But then it's 3rd and 14. That takes you it just ended the drive, basically, because on the next play, KJ ran with it, and they had to settle for a field goal. Think about this. If they're 9 yards closer, even if, let's say, there's not a bad snap, an incomplete pass, they get nothing on third down, if you're 9 yards closer, Cam Little's field goal is good because you're closer in. It has less time to drift off. It's going to sneak in, and he's going to make that snap. And that's the unfortunate thing about this game. Stromberg, one of your leaders, one of your better players, he's an all-SEC center, makes a bad mistake. KJ, a leader, makes a bad mistake stretching out the ball. Some of your key players are hurting right now because they're thinking back at the plays that they could have made.
Yeah, and Stromberg makes that mistake not in the second quarter, not the third quarter, like KJ's drastic fumble recovery was. However, it was in the clutch at the end of the fourth quarter when Arkansas needed field position to get Cam Little close enough. If not, maybe just getting first down after first down and getting a touchdown ultimately to win the game, and A&M has no more time on the clock. However, even though Cam Little did miss that field goal, then A&M was able to kill the clock from there. So in that final drive from Arkansas, that chewed up 5 minutes of clock right there. And ultimately, that is what would be the end for Arkansas in this game because they would have no time to get the ball back.
All right, let's talk about next week now because it's Alabama, huge week. It's not going to be the week that we thought it could be if Arkansas wins this game, a top 10 matchup. You know, maybe you knock off Alabama and you got a chance to win the SEC West, and you still do. You knock off Alabama. Who knows what happens with the Aggies, but still a big ball game. I just got to wonder how this team responds after such a heartbreaking loss.
You would certainly hope that Arkansas would have a pep in their step if they had won this game tonight, going into a crazy big game in Fayetteville in front of your home crowd against the number 2 team in the nation with Alabama. However, maybe this loss again is maybe what gives a wake-up call to Arkansas, coming off another wake-up call with the Missouri State near loss they had, but suffering their first loss on the season in this form at the very end of the game, coming just short to a rival in a neutral site. Maybe it gives a little bit more motivation to the team to correct those mistakes and fix the flaws that we saw on the team from the second quarter on.
The defense secondary was a little bit better in this game. Still not there. Still had some open receivers and still made some big plays for the Aggies. But they're going to have to get a lot better before Alabama comes to town because Bama put up 50-plus points again, and you know they can throw the ball, and they're going to test that secondary next week. So that's got to be the emphasis. Once again, you improve some this week, you got to improve a lot more next week.
We've talked about Miles Slusher coming back, right? The Hogs have missed him in the secondary for the last 2 weeks. We saw it against Missouri State when an FCS team started slicing down the Hogs defense in the secondary. That was a struggle, but getting Slusher back, that clearly helped. You could see that within the first half and through the stretch of this game. But Wes is right. They're going to have to clean up a lot of mistakes that we saw from the second and third quarter, because if the Hogs from that part of the game show up on next Saturday, then it's going to be ugly in Fayetteville.
All right, that'll do it for now, talking about the Razorbacks. When we come back, we're going to talk about the team that plays here at AT&T Stadium. The Dallas Cowboys, they got a big game Monday night against the Giants. Stick around. You're watching The Final Score.